everybody, this is Joe Joseph, and this is the dailysheeple.com's Daily News Brief. Wow. Kind of interesting story that unfolded. BuzzFeed apparently reported that Donald Trump was very naughty when he went over to Russia a couple years back. Well, the New York Post responded to this as I guess it's been discredited now, that what was leaked about Trump and how bad he was and all this kind of stuff ended up being bad. But anyway, or fake news, let me say. But there were some major news organizations that ran with it. And it love Donald Trump or hate Donald Trump. You have to all admit one thing. The guy is never short of being entertaining. That's for sure. He is, if anything, he lives up to his New York upbringing. That's for sure. I mean, because he's just got the tood. He's got the tood, and he uses it. I guess $9 billion also helps, knowing you got that in your back pocket. I'm sure that also helps the tood a little bit along. But anyway, New York Post writes, BuzzFeed's Trump report takes fake news to a new level. Listen to this. This is by John Podhoretz. He says, so the website BuzzFeed decided to publish a series of memos that have been floating around for months alleging all kinds of terrible things about good old Donnie. Now, some of those terrible allegations have to do with some efforts to influence the American elections and Trump. Some of them have to do with Trump's personal sexual conduct. Now, he says that readers of the New York Post know well not to include me among Trump supporters. See, myself included, just so everybody knows, is that I don't support Trump. I don't support Clinton. I can't support anybody that doesn't hold true to what I see should be some core values and virtues. Well, all I really want, as far as somebody in the White House, is a statesman. That's it, a statesman. I don't want a lawyer. I don't want an oligarch. Somebody that we got now. I mean, and people clamored for it. Things got so bad. Just think about this. Things got so bad and are so bad in this country right now that people clamored to have an oligarch take over, which is unbelievable. As entertaining of an oligarch as he is, it just seems to me so crazy. Now, that's not to say that Clinton and Bush weren't kind of in their own way. They're kind of like the henchmen of the oligarchs, if you will. The Bush family, the Clintons. Those, I don't want to call them, first of all, it's not a dynasty because, there's just nothing glamorous about it. Or even, it's not like the Kennedys. Everybody has the idea about the Kennedys and, the thought in their head and the type of family they called it Camelot, yada, yada, yada. There was a romantic spin on the whole Kennedy family. You can't do that with the Bushes and the Clintons, So, I mean, it's just kind of, you got that whole dynamic there. Well, anyway, so BuzzFeed puts out this report. CNN also mirrors a lot of what BuzzFeed puts out. And today, at a press conference, shdfplan.com. And I thought this was very entertaining. I'm not going to play the video for you on this. You can check it out, the link in the description box, because it is, at least the guy calls a spade, which is cool, And in this case, CNN blunders. They don't apologize. They claim that Trump's lawyer was over in Prague doing some sort of sneaky deal with the Russians, when in fact, it wasn't his lawyer at all. It's another guy with the same name. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, because don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, right, CNN? So, Donald Trump being pissed off at his news conference today called CNN exactly what it was. Says, I'm not answering any questions from you. You guys are fake news. I mean, unbelievable. But so true. Look at, finally, at least there's somebody that's calling a spade with regards to CNN. That's a start. But let's be real. I mean, this is why citizen reporting has exploded the way it has, why the independent and alternative media have exploded the way it has. It's because the mainstream media, deregulated by Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, which was a very, very bad thing. I mean, let me say this. With regards to government was put in place to protect your rights. That's what it does. It's supposed to do. It's not supposed to take them away or legislate things or roundabout this or, well, the Second Amendment applies here but not here. That, all that kind of stuff. All that aside, the Founding Fathers envisioned a very limited government, that its prime responsibility was to ensure that the rights of the people of these United States would be protected. And that's it. That's what it was supposed to do. And so not only has it failed to do that, and in miserable form, but also another entity that was formed around that time, even before that, but when it really took off was when the United States actually became a country, was the press, or the Fourth Estate, which is also supposed to kind of be the accountability factor for the government. Hold it accountable. Make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is protect the rights of the people of the United States, which it doesn't do. Why? There's no accountability. There hasn't been for quite some time. What you have is special interests that go and buy off all your elected officials through campaign contributions and other goodies. Here's a little tidbit for you. Did you know that a GS level employee of the United States government cannot accept a gift from any private organization, entity, contractor, whatever, over $25 a year? It becomes criminal. You have to disclose if you receive anything. If somebody takes you to McDonald's and you get an $8 value meal or whatever, you got to disclose that. And it better not be worth more than $25. $25, GS employee. Now, once you get into the Special Employment Service, or SES, now you're starting to get into that gray area where all of a sudden the rules just start melting away. And those same rules that apply to the low-level government employees, or the GS level, just go out the door. And then once, of course, you're an elected official, well, I guess, at that point, you're royalty. So it's kind of like, I always think of, what was that movie with Mel Gibson? Lethal Weapon 2. When the South African ambassador is like, diplomatic immunity. I don't know why, but it always just comes to my head. In other news, Rex Tillerson is up for grilling. Now, if you don't know who Rex Tillerson is, that is the individual that Donald Trump has nominated to be his Secretary of State. The interesting thing about Rex Tillerson is the fact that he is, of course, former CEO of Exxon. Exxon has a mandatory retirement age. Doesn't matter if you're the CEO or you mop the floors. You cannot work at Exxon past a certain age. It broke my uncle's heart when he had to retire from Exxon after so many years, being a merchant marine. But they force everybody out. And Rex Tillerson's getting to be that age, so it's time to move on to something more fun and exciting. Why not foreign policy? So here's the problem. This is the issue that, I run into when you put an oligarch in the presidency, is that he's going to surround himself with people of his own ilk. And Rex Tillerson, CEO of Exxon, is one of those people. And so what happens is they're going to sell us the fact that And we may feel a little love, peace, and harmony here. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not for Trump. I'm not for anybody else that was running in this election. They just can't. They just don't hit that mark for me. They don't achieve that level that I deem necessary for me to be able to support them. So Rex Tillerson, Exxon, State Department, SHTF plan says it's like appointing Ronald McDonald to the agriculture as agriculture secretary. Think about that. It says a very powerful man is now facing the whole country in a very public way for what may be the first time. He appears a bit nervous and perhaps rehearsed. Rex Tillerson, Donald Trump's pick for Secretary of State, is facing confirmation hearings today as the next administration prepares to begin. Now, it seems the former Exxon Mobil CEO will likely be confirmed as Secretary of State with ease. And same with Jeff Sessions of Alabama, Senator. He'll be confirmed. It just takes a simple majority now. And so, I think this is just a formality at this point. But his economic team, Mr. Trump, all Goldman Sachs. Same with his, national security advisor, all his White House, all the people that have his ears. Goldman Sachs, bankers, CEOs, big business. Okay, so this is how they sell it. We're going to rebuild the middle class. This is what we're going to do. How do we do it? Well, let's put these businessmen in place. Well, normally what's going to happen, this is how I see it, is you're going to have interest rates that are going to be going up every quarter or so as the Federal Reserve is going to turn the screws on President Trump. Now, when that happens and interest rates start to go up, you're going to have recession at a minimum. You're also going to have an increase in the amount that it takes to service the debt, which, by the way, sits at $20 trillion. And that's quite a hefty interest tag on that. And there'll be a lot of countries that get pissed if you don't pay that bill. So we have that going for us. That's going to be working against us. These are all headwinds. So say Trump goes ahead and lowers the business tax rate down to 15%. And he passes some sort of Obamacare repeal slant reform, which could very well end up looking like a single payer system, folks. So just brace yourself for that. And so you got all these headwinds going. You're going to have, at least in my guesstimation, because I just don't see the jobs out there in the marketplace. I just don't see them. And I see cost of living going through the roof and wages still flatlined, if not gone down quite a bit. Of course, it's all area dependent. But, on the whole across the country, people are suffering. You're going to see large transfers of wealth if the economy takes a hit. And all of his people are in place for when that has to happen. So it could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. I don't know. But I can tell you, he's surrounding himself with his buddies. And don't look for any miracles. That's all I'm going to say. Rex Tillerson, as Secretary of State, certainly is not going to be one of those miracle players there. I don't know. I could have him pegged wrong, but it seems to be kind of a crazy move. I would certainly think that you would put somebody there with a little bit of state experience, or, some sort of statesman. You need one as the president, but you also need one for your Secretary of State. And sometimes career bean counters aren't the best people to go up there and put in front of people, especially different cultures. That's not to say Mr. Tillerson hasn't had any success with Exxon. But, you want somebody up there that can really communicate the message. That's all. And of course, I guess it never goes by what we need. It's basically what the person in power at that time wants and desires. I don't know. Maybe Secretary of State one day could be like a elected position or something. I don't know. In other news, IRS, according to Lily Dane, has put out a warning. This, according to the Daily Sheeple, millions of refunds for low-income families will be delayed. That's right. It says the immoral robbery swindlers, the Internal Revenue Service, has made an announcement that is sure to disappoint those who are expecting two very common types of tax refunds this year. More than 40 million low-income families who claim the Earned Income Tax Credit and the additional child tax credit will get those refunds later than expected. This, according to IRS Commissioner John Koskinen, who wrote today on the agency's website, in an effort to make it easier for the IRS to detect and prevent refund fraud. Congress passed a new law that requires the IRS to hold refunds claiming those credits until February 15th. But this doesn't mean you should wait to file until then. Taxpayers claiming the EITC and ACTC should file as soon as they have all the necessary documentation together to prepare an accurate return. In other words, file as you normally do. Now, the IRS claims that the EITC and the ACTC processing delays are required per Section 201 of the Protecting Americans from Tax Hikes Act of 2015, or the PATH Act, which, quote, made several changes to the tax law to benefit taxpayers and their families. Now, Section 201 of the PATH Act also provides, quote, additional time for the IRS to review refund claims based on the Earned Income Tax Credit and the refundable portion of the Child Tax Credit in order to reduce fraud and improper payments. One of the largest anti-poverty programs, the Earned Income Tax Credit, pays out $72 million to 29 million families in 2014. In that same year, the additional Child Tax Credit provided an additional $27 billion to 20 million families. Now, these programs, of course, have been plagued by fraud. The EITC alone has paid out billions in improper payments, including overpayments and fraud. You see a lot of that also with illegal immigrants. They will also go ahead and do that and then send the money back, as has been exposed many times before. So you can look to see if you take advantage of those two tax credits to have a delay of some sort in your tax refund. So be aware, my friends, of that. These are all things to be aware of. One more thing to be aware of. Let's go to science now, where we go to the Express over in the UK that says that we should be advised that there's a coronal hole now opening up from the sun, and it's blasting Earth with solar winds, and it could leave us vulnerable to some technology disruption in the days ahead. Again, UK Express saying a coronal hole has emerged on the surface of the sun when a magnetic field lines travel from the interior of the sun to its surface. They usually remain inside our star. However, when a coronal hole appears, which happens sporadically, the magnetic field lines can stretch out into space in the form of solar wind. And so this is happening now. We know that the Earth has a weakened magnetic field, as it is and has been weakening for quite some time. Coupled with the experimentation that humanity does and screws the magnetic field up even more, that's for another news brief. All I can say is that we don't have the same shields, and the sun is acting very strange, almost similar to the last time we had an ice age. So we'll see where this goes. But just be advised, you may have some like cell phone and or if you're into ham radio, you might have some disruption. I'm Joe Joseph. This was the DailySheeple.com's Daily News Brief, and I will have one again for you real soon. Take care, everybody, and have a great night.